You wave to them in the mornings. You exchange polite smiles in the hallway. They seem normal. But what if the neighbor living just a few feet away wasn't human at all? By the time she realized what was living next door, it was already too late. It was a quiet street, the kind where nothing unusual ever seemed to happen. Narrow sidewalks, rows of nearly identical houses. A single streetlight flickered on the corner, casting long, broken shadows across the wet pavement. On nights like this, the rain was the only sound, filling the silence with its endless rhythm. The building sat at the very end of the block, old, slightly leaning. Its wooden floors groaned under the weight of time, and the walls held a faint smell of mildew, like they hadn't been truly dry in years. Every sound inside carried, as if the walls themselves were listening. Emily had just moved in, 29 years old. A schoolteacher. She wanted a fresh start after a painful breakup. Somewhere quiet, somewhere she could be alone. The apartment was small but affordable. It seemed perfect. But across the hall lived a man named Mr. Carter. Early 50s, polite, soft-spoken, always quick with a small smile, a smile that never quite reached his eyes. Emily couldn't explain why she noticed it so quickly. The way he stood, too still, the way he watched, without blinking. He was friendly, yes, but there was something about him, something she couldn't name, that felt wrong. At first, it was nothing she could explain, just little things. His apartment, always dark, not dim, not faintly lit, completely dark. Yet late at night, when the storm was at its heaviest, she could hear faint movement from across the hall. Soft, careful, almost measured. Whenever she saw him, he was polite, always polite. But when she said hello, there was always a pause, a hesitation, like he needed to think about what the right answer should be. His voice sounded normal, but the timing was just slightly off, as if he was repeating something he'd learned. Even the way he walked felt wrong. His footsteps were too soft, too controlled, like he was mimicking the sound of walking, rather than actually moving like a person. It was strange, yes, but not enough to call alarming. Not yet. Something about him felt rehearsed, like he was pretending to be someone he wasn't. Emily told herself she was just tired. A new apartment, a new neighborhood, too much time alone. She convinced herself she was imagining it, and for a little while, she believed it. It was late, well past midnight. The storm outside was relentless, rain hammering the old wooden frames. Emily lay awake, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. That's when she heard it. A scratching sound, low, uneven, coming from his apartment. It wasn't the sound of furniture moving or pipes shifting. It was closer, like fingernails dragging slowly across wood. She hesitated, then decided to check. Maybe he was hurt. Maybe he needed help. She crossed the hall, and with a trembling hand, she knocked on his door 3 times. At first, there was nothing, no movement, no sound. She turned to leave, relief washing over her. And then, it didn't sound like him. It didn't sound like anyone. The words were right, but the tone wasn't human. She backed away, slowly, heart pounding. She stepped back into her apartment and locked the door. But curiosity kept her awake. She peered through the peephole just once. He was there, standing perfectly still in the hallway, facing her door, not moving, not blinking. She watched for a moment, then another, until she realized he wasn't going to leave. He stayed there, watching, for hours. The next morning, shaken, she went to the building manager. She told him everything. The scratching, the voice, the man who stood outside her door all night, and the manager just stared at her. Then he said something she would never forget. "That's impossible. Mr. Carter doesn't live there anymore. That apartment's been vacant for months." Emily tried to explain it away. Maybe the manager was wrong. Maybe there was some mistake, a misunderstanding. She told herself it was just stress, lack of sleep. She was new here. She wasn't thinking clearly. The next morning, she stepped into the hallway on her way to work. And there he was, Mr. Carter, standing by his door, perfectly still, staring ahead. That same polite smile stretched across his face, but he didn't move, not even when she passed. She didn't say a word. She just kept walking. She told herself she imagined it, that he'd go back inside when she was gone. She wanted to believe that. That night, she locked every bolt on her door. She checked the windows twice. She told herself she was safe. But at exactly 3:17 a.m., she woke to a sound. It was coming from her window, soft, rhythmic, like someone gently tapping with their fingers. She got up. Her heart was pounding, but she forced herself to look. Outside, nothing. Just the rain running down the glass. But when she turned back toward the room, she froze. In the reflection of the window, he was there, standing behind her, perfectly still, watching. She spun around, but the room was empty. There was no one there. For a moment, she felt relief. A quick, fleeting moment. She told herself she was imagining it, that it was nothing. But deep down, she knew it wasn't. By now, Emily couldn't ignore it. The strange noises, the reflection, the way he stood without moving. She needed answers. Someone had to know something. She found another neighbor, an older woman who'd lived in the building for years. At first, the woman hesitated, but then she spoke. Carter was the last tenant before you. He vanished. No one knows how. When the police searched the apartment, they said it was empty, but they found deep scratches on the walls, like something tried to claw its way out. Emily left the conversation shaken. She tried to stay calm, to tell herself it was just a story. But that night, the storm was worse than ever. The power went out, everything went dark. She lit a single candle. Its small glow barely touched the edges of the room, and that's when she saw them. Wet footprints, fresh, leading from her front door straight toward her bedroom. And then she heard it. She froze. Her heart stopped. The air felt heavy. She didn't want to look, but she had to. She froze, slowly turned, and there he was. He was standing there, inside her apartment. Not outside the door, not in the hallway, inside, silent, watching. At first, it still looked like him, but only for a moment. Then his face shifted, like it couldn't hold its shape, like it was fighting to stay human, but failing. His mouth opened, but the sound that came out wasn't a voice. It echoed, low, hollow, like it came from somewhere else entirely. You shouldn't have seen me. He stepped closer. The way he moved, wrong. Too fast, then too slow, jerking, twisting, as if his body didn't understand how to move like a person. She stumbled back. Her instinct screamed to run. She turned for the door, but it closed before she could reach it, locked, without anyone touching it. She looked back at him, his eyes completely black now, empty, and his skin was peeling, sliding away, like it wasn't really his, like it didn't belong to him at all. She screamed, a sound that should have filled the room, and then there was nothing, just darkness. By morning, the storm had passed, the sky was gray, the streets outside were still wet, glistening with the memory of the night before. Inside the building, it was quiet, too quiet. The building manager came by to check on her. He knocked on her door. Once, twice, 3 times. No answer. He tried the handle. It opened easily, but what he found inside made no sense. The apartment was empty, completely empty. No sign of Emily, no clothes, no belongings, as if she had never lived there at all. Only one thing remained, a single wet footprint right next to the window. The manager stepped back into the hallway, shaken, and that's when he heard it. The door to Mr. Carter's apartment slowly creaking open, and behind it was a face. But it wasn't Carter's, it wasn't Emily's either. It was someone else, someone watching. Next. Emily was never seen again, and now that same apartment has a new tenant, maybe someone just like you. So tell me, would you trust your neighbor? I'm right next door. What do you think Mr. Carter really was? Have you ever met someone who didn't feel human? Share your story in the comments below, and if you want more true horror like this, subscribe. But remember, the next knock you hear might not be me.